Hey binders, this is the Kizer Original XL in carbon fiber. It's an exclusive from Mojave Outdoors, and the carbon fiber is over G10, but it's done much better than other carbon fiber over, carbon fiber laminate. It does have this kind of a texture on it. You can feel the weave recessed. Looks like a pocket clip. Blade is centered, and the button lock. Now, if you don't know much about the Kizer Original, one of the things that's kind of interesting is it doesn't have any liners. Well, correction. It has some steel liners that just kind of cover your, right there you can see, I think, on both sides. So basically, about where my finger comes is where they end. It's a little bit like a Benchmade Griptilian, if you've ever had that. That makes these light. When I first got this, I do feel like there was a little bit of, it didn't drop like that. The little button was a little bit hard to push. I did oil both the tang here and the bearings. And then that's nice. And I'm not a big button lock fan. And out here on a hike showing off what I might call a wedding knife. This is kind of a dressy thing. Maybe go out to dinner or something like that. So the XL is like a 3.27 inch blade. We're going to call it a drop point, and I am going to compare this to some other knives. And 154 cm, of course thumb studs, and it does have this little, what's it say here, original. Can't get that. It's always hard when you're, original. I see the XL. So we'll take it in, take a peek at that on the table. Okay, and now we're inside and we can take a little closer look at this. I just don't know if you can see the texture on it, but it's done really well. And then here you can see the G10, and it is a laminate, or what they might call an overlay. You can see the steel down in there, the liners, if you will. Let's see if we can find it on that top one. Yeah, so they're about symmetrical on there. Nice plunge grind. So the Kizer XL is it's a nice, knife. Even though, because it doesn't have full liners and the carbon fiber and everything like that, I think it's a good EDC, but it's not a heavy, hard using type of knife. I do really enjoy we're going to call this a stonewash, a black stonewash. And you can actually feel some of that wash on there. It's got this pasty feel to it. And then we'll take a peek at the drop point. And I want to do that because I'm going to compare it to another drop point, which I prefer. My first impressions on the thumb studs were excellent. Since then, though, I don't know if it's a placement or they're soft on top. I find myself occasionally coming off of them. But if you get your thumb in the right spot, it's not an issue. So I don't enjoy button locks that well. I don't trust them. And we're going to see. Okay, so that's what we do. Follow that around. And that's what we're counting on to lock this up, which I think is plenty enough when you are using, all you're doing is putting pressure on the cutting edge. But beyond that, again, not a hard use knife. So I think the first knife I'm going to compare it to, because it's more similar, is my 6-leaf SL18. And this is a rattlesnake design, and these were available for about the $40 range, $40, $45. We have, now it's not, I guess it's a drop point in a sense. Yeah, you see how that blade drops, but the tip sure doesn't come down that far. It has a great sharpening choil on this. And in my opinion, I like the blade finish on this. And it's a flat grind as well. As I mentioned, D2 steel. We're going to compare the thickness, much thicker. And one thing about this that I'm always doing is tightening it up. For the pivots back off, even though it's a free spinning pivot, I think I'll put some Loctite in there. And there's a look at your button locks. So much the same. Mine locks up very nice. There's no up and down. And if you have your pivot tight, there's no side to side. And with no side to side, let's take a peek. Yeah, you got to give it a little, a little whip. But you can finger deploy it and all that good stuff. I'm going to compare this so you can take a peek. Okay, so the Kizer have no liners. And this thing is kind of very, as you can see, chunky. Get deep carry on both of them. This one has those mushroom heads, but it is recessed. The quality of the micarta is pretty nice. And this one's going to be getting harder to find. Now, I do like the ergos, and it locks it in surprisingly well, even though she's a chunky boy. And just this little curvature right here, I find it's like like snuggling your hand or something. So I do enjoy that. So I'll throw that out. This one's more straight. And one thing this does is it locks you in right here, a lot like another knife I'm going to bring out. And your grip is just right there. And then you can bring in your, your fingers, and you have this spot right here to kind of move up. So take a peek at these two and how they're doing. Same size, about 3.27 inches on that. And then we'll bring out another knife, and this is my Asher thumb stud. Now it's not a button lock, but I'm bringing it out because right here they remind me of each other on the handle grip. And I'll show you what I mean here. So from about this point down, they feel very similar. In fact, the thinness and so on. And one of the things I like about this knife the most is the purchase. And that locks you in very nice. And in fact, I think it does a better job than the Kizer XL. But this one does good as well. Secondly, I like this drop point better. See how the point drops. And what I mean, so I kind of wish, that this point came down about here. They'd have to kind of redesign that. But the advantages on the Kizer are it's got more flat grind. So the flat grind on my Asher doesn't go near as high. Other than that, the blade, the sharpened edge, the cutting profile is very similar. So when we are cutting things, okay, these are both factory edges. The Asher's been stropped and so on. Well, let's get some of this stuff out. Okay. Okay, so that's how the factory Kizer sharpness comes, I think a little stropping would help. Let's see how 6-leaf. All right, that's actually, you know, for a knife that costs half the money. I should mention, by the way, I forgot if I did, this is $57 on Amazon. It's a Mojave Outdoor Sport exclusive, and I don't know what the retail on it is, but I do know that Kizer Original XLs with aluminum handles are bringing over $70 on Blade HQ. So, hey, we've gone on long enough. I always kind of forget to look at the time on these, but I want to be aware it's probably getting to be a long video for you guys. So anyways, there's the Kizer Original and some comparison knives. Thanks for joining the Miner.